Hi everyone, my name is Elizabeth. My pronouns are she, her. Welcome to my Flosstube channel. This is Savory Sewing. You can also find me on Instagram at Savory Sewing. It is Sunday, February 23rd, 2025, and this is Flosstube number 44. It has been a tumultuous 2 weeks, to say the least, both in terms of weather here in Oregon, general crazy that's going on nationwide, which I'll talk about later. And I will say the only crazy thing actually has been my stitching. It's been pretty calm and productive. So there is one silver lining for the last half of February so far. I don't know, folks. All right. So what have we got today? I don't have any fully finished objects. I do have a finish. I have some whips and a new start. I also want to talk about Nashville Needlework Market and some of the things that I'm interested in obtaining because I don't have any haul. So my haul section is going to be replaced with future haul. And oh, I was going to tell you all about our trip to Portland last weekend. So last weekend was Valentine's Day, and we usually don't do anything. We just don't. No shade on folks who do, just not. Usually there's flowers and maybe some chocolate and a heart-shaped pizza from Papa Murphy's, because the way to my heart is through food. But there is a local burlesque group that does a Led Zeppelin themed Valentine's Day burlesque show every year called Whole Lotta Love. They also do it in Berkeley, California. So they do it in Berkeley like the week before Valentine's Day, and then this year on Valentine's Day itself, it was here in Portland. And so we went to that. So we had a wonderful evening in Portland. It was a great show. All the songs were, excuse me, were Led Zeppelin. It was very inclusive. You had folks of all genders and sizes and nationalities. And it was just a great show. One particularly entertaining bit was, if you've seen the Marvel movies, you know who the Fat Thor is. Thor, is it Chris Hemsworth? Yeah, Chris Hemsworth's character, Thor, gets depressed at one point during the series and becomes Fat Thor. And so one of the male burlesque dancers, did a Fat Thor striptease to Immigrant Song, which was awesome. I don't have any photos because we weren't allowed to take any, but if you're in the Portland area, Body Magic with a K, Temple, is the group that puts on and hosts the Portland show. And then if you look at that, you can figure out who it is in the Berkeley area if that's what you're interested in. But it was great. We'll probably go next year. We also had I think I had one of the best meal combinations. My partner knows me. Well, we went to a place called the Cheese and Crack Snack Shop, which does fancy soft serve sundaes and charcuterie. I mean, here's a picture of my fancy soft serve sundae, which was delicious. It's got these funky, these homemade cookies on it, and I think they only have vanilla soft serve. And then we ended up going out later and got fancy drinks, and they had oysters, and so I got these really amazing oysters. So here's some nice pictures of the food I ate last weekend. And also, if you're a Led Zeppelin and a burlesque fan, the show was great. They raised a lot of money for the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence. I think it's a drag. They're drag nuns, and they do a lot of really good outreach work. So they did a little fundraiser for that. And then there was the show, and it was wonderful. So that was great. Highlight of the last 2 weeks was that little sojourn to Portland to celebrate Valentine's Day. All right, apologies. I'm kind of losing my voice again. I apparently have not been talking enough because usually my vocal cords are ready for this and not so much. So if my voice starts getting scratchy, I'm sorry. All right, let's see. Let's talk about some cross stitch. So I have one finish. As many of you know, I've been working on the Spot motif sampler from Dee's 20 Stitches as part of the 2025 Stitch for Pride. This month's, February's trans person from history was Hatshepsut, who was a Egyptian pharaoh. And here is my stitching. Let me fold it so you only see. This was the Hatshepsut inspired piece. And then here's the whole thing. It's kind of hard to see. Hang on, let me do some strategic folding so you don't have to look at this, although this fabric is really good. Here you go. You've got Elagabalus, who was a trans Holy Roman Emperor, and then Hatshepsut, who was a pharaoh. I think history, if you read, the learning that Dee provides is always super, super great. And I read a really interesting article about, they don't say, or they aren't sure, like if she was like a trans, they say she took on a lot of male characteristics in order to be able to, project authority as a pharaoh. So they don't say she was trans, but she was definitely leading in a time where being a woman maybe wasn't, going to get you what you wanted. But beautiful. This fabric is Gray Magic from Bestitch Me, 36 count. And my floss is from Dyeing for Sass and in the color Wisdom. And I'm stitching it every piece in the same color this year. And I'm just loving how I feel like this fabric and this floss were made for each other. Like obviously this is a look, right? It's very monochromatic, but it's what I wanted and I'm really happy. The called for fabric was dyed by Jessie from Miss Lee Pages, and it is like a dark gray, black mottled situation. And then the flosses were dyed by a Canadian floss dyer, or I don't know if they're a floss dyer, but they dyed the floss for this. And they are also trans. And what I really like is he picked a floss color based on something that was also like relevant to the person that we were honoring through the stitching, right? And so what the thing says is for Hatshepsut, I wanted to go with something bright and precious. Ancient Egyptian art and clothing have incorporated turquoise since the 30th century. When it was first mined from sandstone in the Sinai Peninsula. So the minerals colorway come from a combination of copper and aluminum. And so that's why if you see folks who are stitching with the called for, or got the floss pack, or even stitching with the DMC conversion, it is a turquoise because of that. And so every colorway was chosen that way, and I really like that. Even though I am not doing that, I really like it, and I enjoy reading those little bits of in the learning as well. So that is Stitch for Pride 2025. I'm excited to see what March is going to be. All right, so that was my only finish. Now let's look at some whips. I don't have a ton, but I got a lot of progress done on them, so I'm pretty excited. So the first one I'm going to show you, I think I posted like a little spoiler of this when I was working on it on my Instagram stories the other day, but I did do a little bit more than that. And so this is from JedXStitch. This is called Witch's Road, and this is actually free or whatever you want to pay on their Ko-Fi. I highly recommend you pay for it because it's lovely, and she definitely deserves it. I think if you go watch her last Flosstube or the one before, I can't remember, she shows her finished model of it. But here's what I've got so far. Oh, it's so bright and cheerful. So this fabric is Lugana from Fiberlicious Yummy Fibers. The color is Winter Musings. It was a fabric of the month a couple years ago, maybe 20, what year is it? Not 24, maybe 23. And here is here's the over dyes that I'm using. There's also a couple DMCs, but I've got that not shown. They're in the bag, and I don't have my DMCs on floss drops, so they're not as pretty to look at. But just look at that riot of colors. Yeah, I'm super, super happy with this. So I'm using a combination of DMC, Forbidden Fiber Co., Classic Colorworks, and a Karen Water Lilies. And then the reason why she's not releasing this as a paid pattern is because she stitched it as like a sort of a stash buster, and she uses a variety of overdyes that you might not be able to actually get, because some of them I think were from Floss of the Month clubs, and so that's why it's free. And so some of these are the called for. Some of them are I looked at the DMCs and then picked something for my stash, or I just looked at the photo of her model and picked something. But like that hot pink is a Karen Water Lilies, and then that's a Classic Colorworks. And then you can also see I've got Smyrna crosses inside some of the flowers. And then it will also have beads. And so I don't know what I'm going to do with the beads yet. I'm going to bead it, but I think I'm going to have to take it to a store and then sit down with some bead packs and figure something out, because the called for beads they're not Mill Hill, they're something else. But she also stitched hers on 40 count, and this is 32 count. So I'm not sure if the size is going to work. I'll figure that out at the end. I'm not worried about it, clearly. And if my beads aren't exactly what her beads were, it's still going to be beautiful, right? I mean, look at those colors. Ugh, this is giving me life. So I spent a couple days on this. And there's a lot more. Like there's 3 more of these star thingies, flower thingies with the moons in it going up. So this is a pretty tall pattern. But anyway, super happy with this. So good. So good. All right, next is one of my WIPGO calls. So I had 2 WIPGO calls this month. One I've already completed, and this is my second one. This is a pattern from Witch's Garden Crafts called Salem 1692 Sampler, and here's a picture of it. This, I believe, is just a PDF pattern you can get on their website. I started this in, I think, 2022, so it's on my WIPGO board multiple times, because this is also, I believe, something that is on my let's finish this in 2025 and get rid of it goal. Is it on my finish? Oh, it's not. So I must not be very optimistic about my ability to get this done, because it's actually not on my finishes. But it needs to get 3 days. It is a 2022 WIP, and here's where I am. Now, as you can see, it is a lot more muted than the called for. Mainly what I worked on this month is this motif here and this motif here. I added both of those, and then but I've been slowly extending the border down as I go. I think I might need to still, if you've been watching, I've been talking about the color choices on this for a long time. Either subbing out those blacks for more for lighter blacks, or more variegated blacks, so they were less like, I feel like that spider like jumps out at you. And so I actually might pick out some of this and put black in, because I feel like, I don't know, I'm second guessing my color choices. I think it's a great pattern. I probably should have just done what the designer said and not thought I knew better, but whatever. It'll be great. I really like it regardless. It needs 1 more day this month to hit my WIPGO, and then it's actually on my WIPGO board 2 more times this year for 3 days each. So it'll get 9 days as part of WIPGO, which honestly, I think there's 1 more row of motifs, and then that's it. So there's something here, here, and then some things here, and then it's done. All right, next is another Halloween themed pattern. So this is from Blackbird Design. This is Away We Ride. I started this with Jen from Jen's Fiber Web we started this in March, I think. And so it's almost coming up on its 1-year birthday. And so I pulled this out for Dark 13 stitching. And I got a lot done. I think I pulled this out on Saturday or Sunday last weekend, and then worked on it, I think, also on Monday, because it was a holiday. But here's where I am. That's the best way to show this. So I'm stitching mine on Vintage Country Mocha with some of the called for, but not all. And what I got done last weekend was I finished this border here all the way over, and then I stitched this tree and the bird. I started on the house and I stitched this. So that's quite a bit. And I think I just moved these up a little bit because I had the colors in the border are the same as this bird. So if I had extra black, for example, I just moved it up. So yeah, I like this a lot. Here's my colors. They are mostly the called for, but not all. I subbed the black. I'm using the garden gate, the gas garden gate, which is this gray, which is in a lot of places. I think 1/1 on this is, I can't remember if this is 36 or 40 count, but I'm going to have plenty left over. But I'm really happy with how it's looking. Yeah. So you can see, instead of just a little bit of progress on a lot of things, I got a lot of progress on a few things this month, which also feels really nice. All right, so that's that. Next is, this is my last whip. So this is Rappaccini's Quaker by Michelle from Bendy Stitchy Designs. I love this. I talk about how much I love this a lot, and how long I waited to get it because I missed out on the Poison Garden box from Starlight Stitchery where it was first released. Michelle released this at Market last year, and I actually started it for her birthday last year, and so it could be close to a finish by her birthday this year if I keep up on it. So here's where I am. Now I'm stitching this on this fabric from Forbidden Fiber Co. This was a fabric of the month. It's called Resolution. Last time I was like, it's a New Year's Eve word. Resolution is the name of it. It's real cool, isn't it? And so I'll show you a little bit close up because I think it's a little bit hard to see. But I finished this motif, and I started this motif. Oh, and I finished the Lily of the Valley here. So this is based on, I know I've said in the past, Edgar Allan Poe, I think, Nathaniel Hawthorne wrote a short story about Rappaccini's Quaker in a poison garden. And so these are all poisonous plants. You've got Taxus baccata, which I think this is you, Lily of the Valley, Convallaria, Majalis. You're going to have your Chinese lantern here, which is Physalis, something, and then I can't remember what the fourth one is, but there's one more plant here that's also poisonous. And it's all classic colorworks, which I've got right here. It's really pretty. That orange is just in your face. It's embers, if anyone was wondering. And so I don't have that much left. I've got to finish this one. There's one here. And then this is mirrored on this side. And then there's a crap ton of French knots. And so I had at one point entertained beading. I think I'm going to go for the French knots. I think something I stitched for, like in December, had a bunch of French knots on it. One of the Christmas ornaments I made. And they went really well. So I think I'm going to do it. And then I'm going to finish it as a drum, which is going to totally look just like this. And so I'm very excited about this. If you couldn't tell by how many times I'm shoving it into your faces. I'm really happy with it. So now those are all my whips. So not a ton of things, but I feel like they all got moved. They all got 2 or 3 days each, which is more than a lot of my whips get. So I'm liking, oh, hang on, I dropped a piece of floss. Usually I add a whole bunch of real whips onto my months because in the past, I've like given it a theme and been like, everything that has a theme has to get touched. And I didn't really do that in February because I couldn't come up with a good theme. And so I limited myself, but it got a lot of effort on each of my projects. So that felt nice. I don't know if the rest of the months will be that way, but at least for February, for a short month, feels like it was very productive. Okay, so I have one new start, and that is this pattern from Haunted Frame Stitchery. This is the Book of Psychic Reading. I started this with Lindsay from One Cat Crafting, and I think she's done. Or if she's not done, she's like a day of stitching away from being done. I am not that close to being done, although I feel like I did get a decent amount of progress in on the day I started this. Oops, got all these loose threads. So here's where I am. So this is Dovetail. This is Dovetail from Forbidden Fiber Co. 36 count. The charted was like gray, Zweigart Pearl Gray, I think. So this is something that was close, and that's what I've got done. The called for is all DMC, but I subbed in a fancy floss. So I subbed in one. This is Grim for the black, because I love my variegated blacks. And then this one of a kind from Forbidden Fiber Co., because it had a dark pink and a light pink in it, which the pattern also called for a dark pink and a light pink. And so I was thinking that I could just get away with using one floss. The issue is when they were stitched up, there really wasn't enough contrast. So I ended up bringing in a DMC. This is 915. And so you can see like this bottom book is 915 and the outside of the big book is also 915. And then wherever the lighter pinks are, I just kind of fussy cut them and, you know, made it work. So sometimes I use the light pink half, sometimes I use the dark pink half, sometimes I let them, you know, wander together, and I'm really happy with it. And then there's also a white. I'm just using Blanc. So I really like this too. I'm going to keep this out, keep working on it. And then I've got, I think I've got 3 more of these books that I want to stitch because I just really like them. I have the Woodland one and then the Poison one. So one is like it's got an owl on it. That's why it got purchased. And then the green one is like the Poison. It's basically this like a similar style, the same style book, cool pattern, and then a limited color palette, but greens instead of pinks. So very excited about that. All right, so that's all my stitching. So not too much, as I said, but lots of good progress. Let's talk briefly about, well, I don't have any haul. So what I was thinking of doing is talking about what I'm interested in purchasing from Market, in case anyone out there cares what I want to buy. Because there are some really good patterns this year. I usually don't buy a ton of stuff from Market. Like last year I bought 3 patterns and I finished, well, I've got good starts on 2 of them. I actually didn't start the 3rd one yet, which was, again, you know, against the rules. There's no rules. But one of them was Rappaccini's Quaker that I just showed you, and the other one is Brew Crew by Counting Puddles. And that one's probably about half to 3/4 of the way done. So that's good. Market is fun in terms of like seeing all of the things, but also Market brings out the worst impulse buyer in me. And so I try to curb that as much as possible by either just not buying anything or being very strategic in my purchasing, because what I don't want to have happen is, you know, buying all the things and them sitting forever. Or, you know, them going out of my style before I get to them. And so I'm going to show you, I pulled out, I don't know how many things on here that I really liked. I'm not buying all of these. I've got a few things in my cart. I'm shopping with Top Knot Stitcher because Abby is fantastic. Yeah, limiting my purchases this year. So let's see. The other thing I wanted to talk about before we talk about what I'm going to buy is this. This is a poster, graphic, what have you, that was put together by Dee from Dee's 20 Stitches to share with folks who are going to Market, for them to potentially put in their spaces. My understanding is that the organizers of Market are not going to allow folks to post this, and it has caused a bit of drama. And you've probably also seen many folks share this on Instagram. I hope it goes without saying, if you've been here for a while, that, you know, we do believe in diversity and inclusion on this channel. And this is a, you know, space for everybody. And if you read this and it makes you feel bad things, well, I think that's a you problem. Yeah. So with that, I know that I will be framing my Market purchases around shops that believe in the things that I believe in, and hopefully purchasing to the best of my ability from creators who also share those ideals to the best of my ability, because you know sometimes folks it's difficult to know, but once you know, you can't unknow it. So if I'm showing you something today and you're like, yeah, Elizabeth, maybe you should think about that twice, you know, please let me know. But let's talk about some potential market purchases. So let's first start with this fantastic pattern from Rebel Stitcher Designs. And so this is called Disagree. And I know that there's going to be a big stitch along for this starting in June. Ellen Reed from Maximum Cross Stitch is hosting. And I think it's going to be called the Disagree Sal. But the quote on this says, "We can disagree and still love each other unless your disagreement is rooted in my oppression and denial of my humanity and right to exist." So, very powerful message. You go watch Colleen from Rebel Stitcher. She did a great video talking about this piece and all of her other market releases. So I'm really excited to stitch this year. It fits right into things I believe in, and also my want to stitch more monochromatic pieces in 2025. So very excited about that. I believe the stitch along is going to start in June if what I saw on Instagram is correct. So plenty of time for folks to purchase this and get it kitted up. Next, I want to talk about the Cross Stitch the Rainbow, X Stitch the Rainbow. Is it X Stitch or Cross Stitch? I'm not sure. Anyway, this year's group of patterns. So as Abby from Top Knot Stitcher is one of the organizers, she's got a top of her page, she's got everything organized there, so you can buy the floss, which is for Threadworks. I will admit, I've actually never stitched one of the X Stitch the Rainbows before. Not that there haven't been great patterns, they just haven't been in my my aesthetic, my wheelhouse, if you will. One year I think it was like tea themed. I don't really drink tea. This year it's Moon Garden or Night Garden, right up my alley. The color palette's up my alley. And so here's 4 of them, that my 4 favorites, and keep in mind they're all fantastic, but these were my 4 favorites. Michelle from Bendy Stitchy. It's called Stargazing. I really like the color palette. I know she's second guessing herself on the fabric choice, but I think it looks great. Next, this is Twilight Moon from Tiny Modernist. I mean, her use of that Threadworks and that moon is absolutely great. It's just a beautiful, beautiful pattern. Night Owl from Stitchy Prose. I mean, it's got an owl on it. Of course I'm going to stitch it. And then this last one from Pixie, who I just adore. I love the Nightlife. It's just super cute. And there were a few others that I also really liked, but I figured I'll pick 4 because they were all great. And there's stylistically, there's probably something for everybody in this set. All right. Next, this one just, I actually, the next 2, is it the next 2? No, just this next one. This is an Erica Michaels pattern, and it's pretty traditional, right? But it says featherbeds are for rent, and rent is spelled like Wren, for like I have no excuse, no reason. That just got me. It's also super cute. I would stitch the pattern, not the strawberry, but featherbeds are for rent. I don't know. I also really love, let's stay around like the more traditional route. This is Parkington Manor from Rosewood Manor. I don't stitch these things. I love this. I don't know why. I think it's that flower bouquet in the big medallion in the top. I don't know. If you've watched or seen anything that I've stitched, I do not stitch this style is not my jam, but I just Actually, if someone would stitch this for me, I would hang it on my wall. I don't know if I would actually stitch it myself, but I just love it. Love it. Now let's, one more sampler-y thing, and then everything else is a little bit, kind of fits a different, same niche. So this is one of the new Heartstring samplery offerings. It's called An Ode to Libraries. It says the very existence of libraries affords the best evidence that we may yet have hope for the future of humanity. It's just beautiful. The color palette, I love the book opening up with all the flowers. I don't have this in my cart yet, but I am leaning towards it jumping into my cart. I just really like that. And I also feel like I could see myself hanging it on my wall in a way in which a lot of other samplers would not get hung on my wall. All right. Now we've got one sort of super cutesy thing that's just nostalgia that for me, that the rest of you might think this is weird, Elizabeth, and it is. So you might not know this, but I grew up on a dairy farm in New York. And this is Annie B's folk art, and it's called Strawberry Milk. And it says strawberry milk comes from pink cows. And so I actually flipped by this a couple times because I was like, oh, it's Annie B's. It's going to be like super cutesy, which no shade, but I usually don't stitch the super cutesy. And then I read it and I was like, oh, I do want to stitch that. It's not in my cart, but I really like it. And so it's tickling something in like the child in me a lot. I could see myself stitching it for like my niece or you know, something like that, because she's a big fan of my parents' cows. All right, so next we've got something from Artsy Housewife, and it is this one. This is Summer Feels. I think the JedXStitch Witch's Road that I just showed you is really influencing some of my choices, probably the next 5 choices here, because these bright colors are just, these saturated colors are just, you know, giving me life right now. I need something cheerful. It could also be because I live in Oregon. It has poured all day long. It is gray and miserable outside, and these bright things are, you know, something that, I mean, those hot pink flowers are just, I need more cheerfulness in my life. And on that note, the next 2 pieces are both from Petal Pusher. And they are this is Botanical Study number 3. These are nasturtiums. I love me a nasturtium. I really like this series from her. I have had in the back of my mind that I want to stitch. Number 1 is, I can't remember what the flower is on Botanical Study number 1, but I do really like it. And I can't remember what number 2 is either. But I like these. One of these days I'm going to buy them and stitch them all. Just not today. And then this other piece from her is called Vintage Centerpiece. And this also is hitting that brightly colored JedXStitch vibe that's just like I'm obsessed with right now. So I really like those 2. And then I think in the Vintage Centerpiece pattern, it's from a vintage piece or pattern that she found. And I think that the patterns are in there 2 ways, because this is like the one, I think the pattern, the original is just like one of these motifs, and then she tiled them to make the all 4 like the way it is. So very cool. And then lastly are these 2 pieces from Robin Pickens. So Robin Pickens, before she started doing cross stitch, she's a quilt designer and has fabric lines. And so these are definitely quilt inspired, or at least they are to my eyes. And so Gathering Bright Blooms is the first one. A little bit more traditional in the shape of the flowers, but still hitting that bright colored thing that I want in my life right now. And then the second one called Facing the Sun. I really like how modern this is. It reminds me of quilting a lot, but also some like more modern geometric sort of art style. So I haven't decided if all of exactly what I'm going to be picking up at market. I'm definitely getting Resist by Rebel Stitcher. I'm going to get some of the Night Garden, the Night Garden X-Stitch the Rainbow patterns, and then maybe 1 or 2 other things. But I might also wait and just see. I don't need to purchase them all today, right? Even though they're, you know, we all love our our instant gratification. It doesn't, you know, these patterns aren't going anywhere. There will be plenty of copies available aftermarket. So yeah, so those are my haul plans. If that counts as plans. So if anyone's is planning on stitching any of these, I would love to know about it. What is your favorite piece from XStitch the Rainbow? Because there's so many good ones. Did you also grow up on a farm? And did your dad tell you that strawberry milk came from pink cows? Because mine did. But we didn't have any pink cows. We only had Holsteins. So we had black and white cows. So no chocolate milk, no pink milk in my house. Just boring old white milk because we only had Holsteins. But yeah, so Nashville, those are my hopes and dreams. The other plans on the stitching side. So I'm gonna pop up my February stitching plans graphic here, and so you can see I actually have hit most of my goals this month because I was, you know, I made reasonable goals for once, and so I worked on every whip that I wanted to work on. So far, I'm going to pull out 4th Days of Christmas by Hello from Liz Matthews, probably tomorrow. That's the plan. I'd like to get this finished by June, and I need to put some work into it. I need one more day on Salem 1692 sampler for WhipGo, and so that will hopefully happen this week. And then I have 2 starts that I have planned, and so that's part of my Bauble WhipGo. And those are both from I think the 2022, well, 2 of the Bauble they're from the Jingle Bauble books. One is Pincushion Pattern, which is by Jeanette Douglas, and the other is a Satsuma Street pattern called Ringing in Good Cheer, which is a series of bells. And so I need to get those started, and so that's my plan. They're already kitted up and ready to go. I'm probably I'll start them on, maybe I'll start them both on Tuesday because that's the 25th, right? Today's the 23rd? Yeah. So I'll get those started. Other than that, you know, that's 1, 2, 3, 4 things I need to work on, and we've got 5 days left in February. I do have on here as a finished goal to finish Midnight Magic. That was an overly ambitious thought, so that's definitely not happening. But overall, February was pretty good goal-wise. So next video, I'm not sure when my next video is going to be because it is scheduled to be March 9th, and we are going to be going to the coast that weekend. And so depending on what time we get back on Sunday will depend whether or not I film or not. So I don't know if I'll wait a week or if I'll just film on Monday. I haven't quite planned it out yet, but so I'll talk about March plans in that video and what the goals are, because we don't have WhipGo numbers yet. March is my birthday month, so the theme is stitch whatever you want. So not a lot of planning needs to go on for that, but I do actually have some whips that I do want to target for March. So all right, I think that's everything that I've got for you today. So I hope yeah, I hope your February, well, I'm going to keep saying that I hope that things are going to get better for everybody. There's no light at the end of this tunnel at the moment for, I think, a lot of folks. Everything that's coming out of the federal government is just terrifying for so many people. A lot of my colleagues in the sciences lost their jobs in the last week, and you know, I don't know if you've been here, you know, my background is in plant pathology. I was in academic research for many, many years, and it's really hard to get a faculty position or get a researcher position with organizations like USDA, ARS, or at any research university, and just a lot of folks lost their jobs. A lot of really great, brilliant, up-and-coming scientists lost their jobs for no good reason. And it's heartbreaking. And the folks that are hurt the most, it's really not really interesting, but maybe it's really interesting. you know, the very folks who lobbied to get these positions funded and sat on the hiring panels are the same folks who voted for the folks who were firing them. And they just can't believe what's happening. And I was like, well, it's a really great saying out there is that when people show you who they are, you should believe them. And if you don't, that's on you. But I feel like we knew well, some of us knew what was going to happen, and it's happening. And honestly, it's worse than I could have imagined. So I will get off my soapbox for now. And I know that, you know, some scientists losing their jobs isn't the worst thing that's happening, for sure. But it is happening, and it's not cool. Anyway, I haven't seen any cross-stitch patterns around ARS funding, but if I do find them, I will share them. Otherwise, actually, you know what? I am going to show you one more pattern here, just to end us off with a nice bang. This is a pattern dropped by Witch's Garden Crafts yesterday. It's available for free on their Patreon, and it says, "No kings in America." Happy stitching, folks. I will see you next time.